Morning. How's everybody doing? All right. I'm an aging member of the hip-hop generation, so I got to put my glasses on so I can see this phone. Hey, they laughed. All right. I'm writing that down. They laughed when I said the aging member of the hip-hop. Okay. Thank you to Eddie and the great team at GIA for this wonderful conference. Can we get a round of applause? Some props. All right. I am Jeffrey Banks, Senior Program Officer in the Chicago Commitment at the MacArthur Foundation. Thank you, thank you. All right, let's just stop there. I'll quit while I'm ahead for once. People who know me are like, don't laugh at his jokes. He'll keep us here all morning. Anyway, we're proud at MacArthur to support this year's GIA conference here in beautiful Puerto Rico. And it is my honor and privilege to announce next year's GIA conference in my hometown of Chicago. All right. I would like to announce that the weather in October in Chicago will be the same as it is here in Puerto Rico. Wow, you guys are a good crowd. Come with me to Chicago. Nobody laughs at my jokes in Chicago. Anyway, and clearly my attempt at humor is that you heard me say that I would like to announce that the weather will be the same, but I can't announce that. But we got stuff in Chicago. This actually says insert joke about weather in Chicago. Okay. I call myself a homebody, born and raised on the south side of Chicago. South side. I have the privilege of working for the MacArthur Foundation in the Chicago Commitment, where our stated goal is to invest in people, places, and partnerships to advance racial equity and build a more inclusive Chicago. I get to do some exciting work. I get to focus on two areas of the Chicago Commitment. One is called Advancing Leadership, where we offer no strings attached monetary awards to individual leaders representing historically marginalized communities, including Chicago's artists and cultural producers. I also get to work with my colleagues who are here in the Culture, Equity, and the Arts program, where we offer multi-year general operating support. Where's Voulez? We do that. And we aim to see a more equitable distribution of resources across the city's geographies and populations, and greater diversity in the organization that MacArthur supports. I am pumped to play host next year. In Chicago, our constellation of arts and cultural institutions reflect the rich diversity of the city's population. We have one of the largest urban Native American populations in the country. Woo woo. The AAPI community in Chicago is the fastest growing group in Chicago. Chicago's Latinx and Black communities are roughly equivalent in size, each about a third of the population of the city. Our timeline of cultural influences, I could talk forever about, but briefly, the birth of gospel music, the Black arts movement of the 60s and 70s, the Latinx mural movement of the 70s and 80s, the rise of house music. Anybody? Spoken word poetry, other urban dance forms in the 90s to today have all reverberated across the nation and the globe. All right, so I'm wearing my guayabera to try to blend in while I'm here. It works until I speak Spanish or dance. All right, don't laugh. I'll be up here trying to be Chris Rock the whole time. Okay. We can't offer Puerto Rico's weather, but we do have lots to offer. They had the AC cranked up so much that you're ready for our weather in Chicago. Wow, all of my jokes landed. This is a first. All right, so we look forward and come check us out in the Chi next year. Thank you so much for having me.
Buenos días. Thank you. I know it's Sunday. I know that it's the last day. I know we all had a late night, but the energy is helpful. For those that I haven't had the privilege to meet, I'm Javier Torres. I'm currently serving as the interim president for the National Association of Latino Arts and Cultures, an amazing San Antonio-based organization that provides support to Latinx artists and organizations across the U.S. I'm really excited to be here. Eddie gave me the great gift of getting to be on this year's planning committee again for the conference. And we had lots of swirling conversations about what we wanted to share with you and the dimensions of this beautiful place called Puerto Rico that we wanted to make sure you got to learn about and to enjoy. So today, I'm really excited for the conversation. We're gonna get to highlight all of the beauty, or some of the beauty, of the cultural communities represented by the LGBTQ population here in Puerto Rico. As queer individuals throughout history, we have been on the forefront of making history and of fighting for justice in intersectional ways. That has never just been about us, it has been about all of us being free. Today, I'm really excited to get to introduce my good friend and amazing, brilliant colleague from whom I've learned so much over the years. Miss Bré Rivera is the... Bré is the director of the Black Trans Fund, which is incubated by the Groundswell Fund. Bré is a Black trans femme who has dedicated over 20 years of movement building for Black trans communities. She is a multi-published researcher, a writer, and co-creator of the Femme Queen Chronicles, which you should all see if you haven't already. She developed a series, this series is about the lives of Black trans women living in Detroit. In 2020, Bré launched the Black Trans Fund, and it is the first fund centering joy and liberatory practices in Black, transgender, and gender-expansive communities. So I want to invite Bré up to introduce you to the amazing panel that we're going to have today.
Love and joy. My name is Bré Rivera, she, they. I have the honor and the privilege to be here to host an amazing panel as part of our closing plenary for 2023's GIA's Annual Conference. And so we have spent some time together revisiting our past and strategizing ways to build a future. It's important to name that the work of Black Trans Fund is very principled. And for us, it's not just about building a future, but it's about building a future that centers the joy and liberation of Black trans communities. I would not be able to do this work without the amazing support of BTF staff, which includes HD in the audience here. HD has spent the last year building out our arts and culture work, which supports Black trans artists and cultural preservationists. And we are funding folks from a place of joy and liberation. HD says this quote constantly, and I thought it was really important to share with you. As part of our work at BTF, we are very clear that we are not interested in hearing about the violence and despair that Black trans communities are experiencing. And so when we hold our phone calls with folks, we're in deep engagement with community. HD uses this quote very well. And just reminding folks that we are tired of hearing about what you are struggling with. We want to hear what Black trans people are dreaming about. And part of that dreaming work at BTF is a direct reflection and allows us to be able to honor our Black trans ancestors who, through all of the work that they have done in community, are not only fighting for our liberation, but we're very clear that Black trans communities deserve joy as part of their freedom. Shout out to Rainier as well, who keeps us together, Captain Planet. And so, although the three of us are small and mighty, we have made a tremendous impact on Black trans communities and the ways in which that we love, support, and hold our communities. As part of our dreaming work, it is very important for me to make sure that everything that we do is a co-collaboration from community. One of the things I'm clear about is that joy looks different for folks, and so we are very intentional about making sure that as part of all of our community building, as part of our programming, that we are in deep relationship with other Black trans leaders to be clear that everything that we do is rooted in joy and liberation. And so as part of that work, we do deep work with our Black Trans Fund advisors, Aaron Lang, Jay Mace, Monica Jones, Jai Shivers, we have Jay Mace, we have Eli, and we have Joshua. And so these are our core team that have really been instrumental in helping us live into our values and ensuring that everything that we do is rooted in joy. This year, we launched our Arts and Culture Fellowship, and it is a mixture between artists and art and cultural organizations that are led by Black, trans, and gender expansive folks. And so we pulled together a diverse group of artists, and we are in the process of really reimagining how fellowships are executed, particularly for Black trans communities. As many of us know, as funders, despite all of the work that we try to do to make sure that our work is inclusive and that our dollars move to all communities, we are also dealing with this reckoning of, as part of philanthropy and a capitalist structure that requires people to perform in order to get access to resources, we were really intentional about ensuring that we were providing money to our artists and our organizations to produce art and to preserve culture, which sometimes means that there is no deliverable. And so, we would not be able to move in the world in this way, which is art, without the advice, gentle nudging, and the love that we receive from all of our advisors. Also, I wanted to shout out Lady Dane. Woo! Lady Dane and Jay Mace, which they will introduce themselves shortly, have been very instrumental in ensuring that as artists, established artists, and cultural preservationists, that BTF is actually aligned with we're aligned. One of the things that I think is important to name as part of our work at BTF, we are not just a funder. We are not just moving money to communities. Our work is very integral to building a world that sustains Black trans joy and liberation, and we do that in multiple ways through our collaborations. And it's important to name that as part of all of our work at BTF, and the thing that makes us unique as an intermediary in philanthropy is that not only do we provide grants for folks to be able to do work within communities, but as part of the past history, we recognize that particularly Black, trans, and gender expansive communities have been shortchanged, have been underpaid, and had our arts and culture work co-opted by folks who don't look like us.
Bang, bang.
And those resources don't actually come back to our communities. And so as part of that work, we are dedicated not only to moving grants, but we pay fiscal fees on all of our grants to ensure that when we say that we're giving an organization $20,000, $50,000, $100,000, that money actually moves to the communities that actually need it without having to pay any fees. Yes. Ashe. And so we are gonna have a really exciting panel today. We're gonna hear from Betún, a local arts and cultural preservationist. We're gonna hear a little bit from Lady Dane and Jay Mase. And I will invite you all to dream with us. Part of that dreaming means that I am charging you all to listen to us deeply. Part of our work at BTF, and the most integral part of our work, is not just listening to, but actually trusting and believing Black trans leaders when we say the things that we say. I have the tremendous honor to be able to facilitate this panel, and I'm gonna give each panelist a moment to introduce themselves. So panelists, I would like you to share with the rest of the audience name, pronouns, where you're located, the organizational work that you do, and then tell us one thing that's bringing you joy. I will start with you, Betún.
Hola, buenos días, what's up, ¿cómo estamos? First of all, you're gonna experience my Puerto Rican Caribbean English. So I'm gonna try to speak slowly because I usually speak super fast in Spanish. And I wanted to start with the honor of being in this panel with you guys. You're such an inspiration for the work that we do, and for taking us to dream higher and bigger and better dreams. So my name is Dania Warhol. They call me Betún. And I'm grateful that we make space for Black trans people to speak and have a voice. And when I say we, I mean we. Because the trans experience is not just the white one who transitioned and has access. The trans experience is the experiences of the Black communities. So I wanted to start with that, and I wanted to name other people from Spicy Nipples that are here, because you see me on this share, but this wouldn't be possible without the work of Sora Ferry and More Vázquez, which are in the front seat. Yeah, huge round of applause. And from Steph Camacho, which is living in the United States. We're gonna talk a little bit about what it means to be a Black trans people in Puerto Rico, what it means to be Black trans people from Puerto Rico living in the diaspora. I'm a little bit tired because it's been a hell of a week, a hell of a year. I'm a little bit emotional because it's not that many times that you get the chance to talk about the work that we do. So I might sound a little bit arrogant when I speak, but I want to say everything that we do, because we do such amazing, loving, great work from the grassroots communities that we are from. My pronouns are they, them. I'm from Arroyo, Puerto Rico, which is a south town from Puerto Rico, one of the blackest towns in Puerto Rico and one of the poorest towns in Puerto Rico. So the fact that I am here is almost science fiction to us. My mother, my grandmother dreamt about this moment. All of our ancestors dreamt about us being here. And this is more than I could have ever dreamed about. Now I'm gonna say the name of the organization I'm with Spicy Nipples. Whoa, una bulla! Yes. Spicy Nipples, you're gonna see a video that we made thanks to Laura Angelis Thomas Negron from Matilenia Pangea PR, a Black queer woman from Puerto Rico living with HIV, leading to great projects with little to no support and no funding. One with youth living with HIV, which is Pangea PR, and the other one talking about black bodies and menstrual cycles and how to do art and healing through the blood of our bodies, called Matrilineo. And she does amazing work, and she helped us with this video. So you're gonna see a little bit of the things we do with GIA. We did a queer pride, Black Trans Queer Pride in 2021, I think. I don't remember the year. It's been so long. You're gonna see a little bit of the queer brigades that we have been doing around the island, especially the south part of Puerto Rico, because we want to shed light to other areas that are not San Juan, the capital. Because if you've been here this last couple of days and you've seen the little bit of rain and the hectic time that we have, imagine outside of San Juan how are people living and surviving each day. So you're gonna see a lot of the work that we do too with sex workers in our communities, because sex workers are part of the members of Spicy Nipples. So it's not just a community that we want to help. They help themselves, they organize themselves. We're just a vehicle for them to do their own organizing. So I think that's all I want to say for this introduction part, and so grateful for all the courage that you give me to be here, because this is not what we do. We're usually on the streets creating havoc everywhere we go. So yes, that's what we do. Yeah, we black, that's all. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that introduction, La
Yes.
Familia. Wanting to flag that there is no arrogance, you are powerful, and I am honored for you to be here. Lady Dane, J Mace, what's up?
Dane always makes me go first, so I'm gonna go first. But my name is J Mace III, J Mace or Mace for short. I use he, him as pronouns. I'm one of the co-directors of the Black Trans Prayer Book, along with Lady Dane Figueroa Edidi. And so a lot of the work that we do a lot of different projects, but primarily what we do is we're working on a documentary. We're currently in the process of working on a musical, a big old trans musical that is yet to be named. And we do a lot of work around reparations. We did not necessarily think that as an arts organization, as an organization that creates literature and film and all this stuff, that's what would lead us, that's what it would lead us to. But yeah, we try to have very transparent conversations with people about money, where it comes from, under capitalism, about exploitation, about the ways in which black trans people and black people are exploited all over, and what does it mean for people of stolen wealth and means to understand their role in returning to people from which it was taken. And so that's a lot of the work that we're doing right now.
Hey, everybody! Ow, baby! Feeling the fantasy today. That's for all the 80s girls. I'm Lady Dane Figueroa Edidi. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am the co-director of the Black Trans Prayer Book, along with J Mace III. Yeah, Mace talked a lot about the work that we do. Our work is really rooted in black trans liberation theology, those particular frameworks. We are deeply, deeply committed to not only the healing of our community, but also the dismantling, the complete and total dismantling of white supremacy. Y'all should clap for that, because that shit is trying to take everybody out. Clap for that. If you have a problem in your life right now, the reason is white supremacy.
Listen.
So when that shit is gone, you'll be much happier. So clap for that shit. Clap for dismantling that shit. Ashe. And also, envisioning and manifesting and cultivating a world, a future a present, which I think is very possible, that is a liberated present. Liberation means freedom from oppression. Every last one of us. So, ashe to that world. That is possible now, not just tomorrow, not just 10 years from now, not just 100 years from now. It's actually very possible today.
Thank you so much. We go way back. You said the 80s. I was like, ooh, girl. Okay, the girls is old.
But black don't crack.
It don't, okay?
Come on, Melanie.
Okay. Period, okay? Lady Dane, you reminded me of something that we were having a deep discussion about last night during dinner that Jay Mase actually mentioned around language. And so one of my pet peeves, particularly within philanthropy, is that sometimes we use words that we do not actually understand the concept and what it actually means. And so I want to say this here and now, that in order to do this type of work from a place of joy and liberation, it is very principled. It takes a lot of time, relationship, and pivots. HD, you know what I'm talking about. We always pivoting, right? Because we understand that the things that we put out in the community, in order to use those words, joy and liberation, it means we have to be in deep relationship. It means we have to be accountable. And it means that we have to pivot whenever community says that they do not like how we are doing things and how we are treating folks. And so, you know, over the last couple of months, I've just been kind of like in the social media ecosphere, watching folks as they talk about their relationship with trans communities, particularly Black trans communities. There is no joy and liberation at the White House.
Ooh. Ooh.
There is no joy and liberation in Hollywood. And so, as we continue to have this conversation, I really want you to listen to the panelists when they talk about the things that are bringing them joy and liberation, and take this as a model and as an example of how we should all be doing our work in philanthropy. Lady Dane, Jay Mase just so summed it up very beautifully, that all of the money that we have access to is stolen. It does not belong to us. It should be liberated. It should be liberated with the least amount of work from communities. And so thank you for framing that. Betún, I want to talk to you. Let me look at you real quick.
Look at me.
Yes. I will name, as someone who works in philanthropy, this trip has actually made me rethink the ways in which that we, although we are Center Joy and Liberation, have actually been not as thoughtful in the ways in which that we make grants to our communities. And so, Betún, you've been a grantee for BTF for a couple of years. Pandemic does not make an excuse. I am so honored at the fact that we were able to spend time with you and get very clear about your work, who you are as a person, and get to meet some of your family, to show us around, to take us to places and try new things, new food. And so, Betún, I want to give you an opportunity to talk to us a little bit about, one, your arts and culture work, I really want to hear about how your work and being very explicit about being Black impacts the work that you're doing here on the island, and how you are building relationship with other LGBTQ people of color, and really like how you being so clear about your Blackness and your political analysis, how does that bring folks joy?
Wow. en el spotlight,
Okay.
literally in the spotlight. Well, first of all, I want, if any folks or Spicy Nipples want to say something, like raise your hand. I'm gonna pass the mic, because we all do this work. And I wanted to ask a couple of questions just so the people that are here can think about, especially people that are from Puerto Rico. Before answering obviously your questions, how do we talk about blackness in Puerto Rico? How many organizations, collective, are led by black trans people from Puerto Rico? Or by black people from Puerto Rico? What does it mean to be black and trans in Puerto Rico versus in the United States, which is, we as a colony, is the narrative that we are constantly consuming instead of listening to the black trans folks that are living here? What does it mean to be black in the trans queer community in Puerto Rico? Because those are the questions that we've been trying to answer ourselves while we do this work. Well, Spicy Nipples, to talk a little bit about us in the context of this question. Spicy Nipples started in 2016, which was the year right before Hurricane Maria. So we started, we have different backgrounds. For example, Sora comes from studying abroad, the college. More and I came from going to the college in the West Side. We were part of the UPR strike. The UPR is the biggest and the only public system university in Puerto Rico. So the only university that we can really afford. So in 2010, there was a massive strike at the university, and that was the first time I was involved in the student movement and in organizing and in leadership roles. And that experience fully shaped the way I do the work that I do, because I have never experienced such violence, such racism, such trans violence in any other place than when I was in the student movement. So that made us, especially black trans queer people, organize outside the student movement just to talk about our experiences. We didn't want to do anything big. We just wanted to be like, what the fuck is going on? And how can we talk about this in other spaces that can allow us to talk about our experiences? So when we started Spicy Nipples, we had all this background dealing with machismo, dealing with transphobia, dealing with violence, sexual violence, and harm that was made to our communities with no accountability, and made it to be normal. Like, oh, that's just the way it is. If you want to be a political organizer, this is what you need to do. If you want to be taken seriously, you need to die in the line, and whatever happens to you, well, then nobody's gonna care. So the disposability of our bodies and our experiences, it truly, truly changed us. So when we started like with this phrase that I heard at what class that I can't even remember, that was like, storytelling can change the world. So that's how we started. We started doing a podcast. We wanted to be a transfeminist media and occupy the internet because of access, money, and the alcance, the reach it had. Even contemplating the problems of what it means to be black and trans in the internet. But when 2017 came around, everything changed. Like, the whole island changed. Our own life changed. We lost family members. Members of our communities left the island. Members of our communities took their lives. So it was a very traumatic point in our lives, talking about the government, the corruption, and all of that happening in the political landscape of being black and trans and having no access to resources because you don't have your name changed, because you don't have all these accessibility to the language, to the discourse. And that changed what we wanted to do. We were like, we're gonna be a transfeminist media, well, we need to have transfeminist practice on our grassroots organizations to guarantee that this will never happen again. And if something like this happened, then we have the Transfeminist Network in order to support this. and not just talk about resilience, which I thank HD for pointed out in the panel, but talking about how Black trans people can thrive even in these conditions of colonization. Because we've been through the Spanish colonization and we're currently dealing with the US colonization. And the current political climate, on top of that, we have the fiscal, I don't know how you say that in English. The fiscal, no, la Junta de Control Fiscal. Where are my Puerto Rican people? The Fiscal Control Board. So on top of the constitution of that, now we have this fiscal board that are the ones in charge of deciding how we're going to spend our budget, if we are going to invest in. So if Black trans people don't have power, then what are we talking about? So that's the way we wanted to build power. Like, building power to us is important. It comes in the way of money, it comes in the way of funding, it comes in the way of grants, it comes in the way of, like you said, supporting the work that we do and what we say that we want to do. And it comes in the way of joy, it comes in the way of seeing ourselves living the life that we want to do, seeing ourselves being elders. So that intergenerational work in the Black trans community for us is vital in order to talk about what a Black trans future in Puerto Rico looks like. So we center the work that we do a lot in cultivating practices that will allow us to dream those futures. And one of the things that we do, we had this podcast called Imaginándonos, which means like imagining ourselves. And we used that podcast. We had 8 episodes, and one episode was imagine yourself living with HIV. Like, in a world with HIV, it's not this horrible thing where people are not being discriminated. And we had a Black queer person talking about how do you imagine yourself? How will the future looks like? So it was a beautiful experiment. We call it like a rocket ship of transporting ourselves to the futures that we want to create and manifest, and having the blueprint of the voices of our own community telling us what they want and how they see themselves. Because we in Spicy Nipples, we don't want to do all the work. We want to be just the vehicle for other organizations to create the landscape. And I always say this, before Spicy Nipples, there weren't, like, I would say, outside the university and outside the white gay gay male gaze, not a lot of LGBT, we call TILs. We changed the algorithm to put trans people to the front because we believe in changing discourse. It's not the lesbian, it's not the gay people that have it, like are currently dealing with this, is the trans people, and it's our bodies that are on the line. Through being able to create that network, we've been able to support other organizations to stay, to imagine themselves, to see like that you can really do this. But right now we are the only Black trans-led organization in Puerto Rico. We are one of the few trans organizations that has the infrastructure to receive money, to redirect money, and we are one of the few organizations that have access to these kind of spaces because of the work that we have done. So for us, one of the things that bring us more joy is to see our community thrive in doing exactly what they want to do. So to us, to dream about a free Puerto Rico, which includes the independence of the islands, it is at the forefront that we talk about Blackness, about racism, about racist practices, especially among our communities. So I don't know if you want to say something. Some of you want to say something? You want to say something? Sora Ferry.
Y la GIA era gender euphoria, prioritizing gender euphoria, seeing ourselves as beautiful, and destigmatizing a lot of like just like the beauty constructs and standards. And Betún and I talk about all the time, like our spaces are the spaces where we're able to just like not only see ourselves in the future, but celebrate Blackness, celebrate queer Blackness specifically, and prioritize that over everything. We call it GIA. Like, it's like our version of gender euphoria. Like, we just want to be glowed up and gorgeous all the time, and that's part of our practice, intentional part of our practice.
Yes.
Betún, I'm so amazed by you. Actually, the conversation that we had at lunch yesterday in preparation for this panel, you said something to me that sat with me deeply for a long time around like being very like bold and unapologetic about being Black, especially here on the island. And just wanted to like share with you that like I really sat with that yesterday. I had already been feeling uncomfortable about being here as a Black person with lots of resources and just kind of like navigating the space and trying to figure out the best way to honor it. And so thank you for that. And I think that as a funder, that is my favorite part of the work. The grants, moving the money is fine, but I think when you're in deep relationship with community and you're able to like see what is actually happening and actually get that reaction of, oh wow, like I'm doing amazing work, but there's a little bit more that I could do. And so thank you for pushing this panel to be unapologetically Black. Like, yes. Now y'all. I talk to them like this. We go way back like Cadillacs. Betún just laid the groundwork around like what does it mean to be Black here in Puerto Rico. Now, I want to hear specifically from you two. One of the joys of being able to fund your work at Black Trans Prayer Book is that your work is unapologetically Black and it taps into spirituality in a way in which that allows Black trans people to own their religion in a way in which that, you know, traditionally is weaponized and for us. And so really curious to hear about what y'all are dreaming about, what brings y'all joy, and particularly wanting to hear a little bit more about like the political context, considering that, probably everywhere. I keep wanting to say in the US, probably everywhere. There is like this, this really deep seated connection in between like religion and the rights of the people. And so really curious to hear about y'all work around like dismantling and breaking that up.
Yeah. So the first thing that kind of comes to mind is an ancestor that we talk about all the time is this ancestor named Victoria. So in the 1500s, Victoria was stolen from the land that is currently known as Benin. She was someone that we would define today as an African trans femme person. When she was stolen from Benin and taken to Belgium, she refused the clothing of her enslavers. And so whatever clothing and name they gave her, she said no to, and she would make her own sort of garments. And the words that other Africans used for her that were with her, alongside her, words that they would use to talk about her and to her would translate into her being a healer, medicine person, all these other things. And so when we talk about Black transness, especially in the West, it is impossible to separate that from the ways in which Black trans people were targeted because we were spiritual leaders, because we were medicine people, because we were holders of history, right? And so this work that we do around honoring people, like, so with us at the Black Trans Prayer Book, we come from all kinds of different traditional backgrounds. Like, we come from Islam, we come from Christianity, we come from Buddhism, we come from Ifa, we come from Lukumi, we come from folks who just understand their experience as Black trans people is a spiritual experience and don't claim any particular religion at all, right? And so as we especially organize in this time in which religion is often a very colonial, a very white supremacist, a very Christian nationalist religious framework is used to harm Black trans people, we want to create spaces where people can no longer lie about who Black trans people are, right? And so, so I'm dreaming and we're dreaming of a return of understanding of who we are, that to support Black trans people is not an add-on thing, but it's to really get to the root of racial justice. It is truly to get to the root of disability justice and justice in these ways. It's to get to the root of, as Dane said, dismantling all these systems of white supremacy that are trapping us all, right?
The quote from yesterday. Because I was like, work, Jamie. You better get it, boo.
I was like, girl, what?
Yes, Ashe, honey. Do I gotta say something now? So we, you know, We were chatting a lot yesterday at dinner, and I was talking about ancestor. And so just to talk a little bit about my own background, is that my mother's father was Cuban, and her mother was Black, indigenous. And my father is actually from the continent of Africa. He's Nigerian. And so I grew up, Mase also grew up with both Islam and Christianity in his home and in my home, and a dedication from my auntie, who was the first curator of the Great Blacks and Whites Museum in Baltimore, to really invest in learning who I was beyond what a colonist, white supremacist framework told me I could be. And as I think about when you were talking about like the political aspects of things, when you were talking about the governments, right, is that currently right now, at this very, very moment, I think it is important for folks who may consider themselves intermediaries, right, to think about how the hand can feed, and the hand can also hold a sword, right? And the hand can also hold a shield. And that as people, right, with the privilege of being able to actually move funds into communities who desperately need them to survive, right? Because I think that we sometimes talk about funding in this sense of this very heady, like, oh, yes, girl, you're gonna go make that play, and you're going, woo, yes, right? But that for some people, the funding that you're able to give them is a matter of life and death.
Absolutely.
And that is how we have to begin to see the world. Because when white folks came here from Europe, they took resources, they tried to attempt to dehumanize human beings, they tried to essentially destroy indigenous populations, and are still trying to do that. And currently, you can even turn on MSNBC and people will talk about there's a trans debate. And we have to be clear about what they're really saying. They're debating whether or not trans people should survive and live.
Yes, yes.
And so our desire to not want to be political in the work is a fallacy. You are political. The minute that Europeans colonized the Americas, colonized Africa, we became political beings. Your beinghood is political. And so with that said, as I think about funding and I think about joy, thinking about this quote that I said yesterday, as we were talking, I said, you know what? Our ancestors do not want us to suffer. And I think it is white supremacy that has told us that the work that we have to do has to be painful. I reject that. I reject it. The way that we honor our ancestors best is by living well, by living with integrity, by recognizing, you know, as my aunties used to say to me, if you get a seat at the table, bitch, you better make sure you bring in other people to the table who look like you, who share your politic, who love the way that you do, who want all of us to be free. We cannot pander to white supremacy thinking that it will treat us better. That is abuser dynamics. That is not freedom. That is not equality. It is not equity. It is not liberation. And it is not love. And right now, we are living in a moment in this country, in this world, in which we are at a precipice. And I believe the universe is asking us, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be, and what future do you want to make? And so we do a disservice to our communities. We do a disservice to ourselves if we refuse to name who is hurting us. We must name the pain if we are truly to heal as a community.
So number one, before I say anything else, I just want to can we take a quick breath real quick? So take a deep breath in, hold it, take a deep breath out. Yes. As we talk about naming what is harming us, as we talk about dismantling all these things, one thing I think would be remiss if we did not talk about, because we're also sitting up here with masks on, right, at this panel. And so I do want to also name that we're still in an active pandemic, right? That there are thousands and millions of disabled and immunocompromised artists right now who cannot work because COVID protocols have been completely removed from spaces, and yet we still want to perform. We still want to be able to create our art. We still want to be able to share things. And so as we talk about all these different things, I want us to also think about how disability justice and justice for immunocompromised people is still inherent in this work. Right?
When I launched this fund in 2020, shortly before the pandemic, Groundswell asked me the vision of Black Trans Fund, and the two words that came to mind to me were joy and liberation. I'm emotional right now because in naming that I wanted that joy and liberation in the world, people constantly ask me what it is and what does it mean. This is exactly what the fuck it means in real time. And so this conversation is actually allowing me to revisit my past and actually affirming that I made a decision that was fucking amazing.
Yes.
Yes! Yes!
Yes. Yes. Every day I am reminded of Black trans joy and liberation. And every day I am reminded that I am a part of that as well.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you. I want to open it up for quick closing thoughts, and then we have a beautiful performance from the amazing Lady Dane to close us out.
Yes, first of all, I want to thank you, lady, for taking us up into the sky. Like, thank you so much. And I want to thank you all for making it like so comfortable to talk about Blackness, because in Puerto Rico, we don't talk about Blackness, we can't. That's what makes our work sometimes hard to do, because people don't want us in their spaces. So I think these are one of the few opportunities that we have to be among Black people to talk about Blackness and the experiences that we have. We haven't to put all of this context about what we need to talk about this, because in Puerto Rico, the discourse that we are a mix of three races somehow makes everybody Black, which is not true. Like, for the people that think they are, no, you're not. So I'm like the first person that came here. Thank you for laughing. This is not a joke. Like, ooh, something going. And I wanted to make that very clear, because in terms of funding too, one of the things that happen, a lot of people that are not Black and that are not doing work related to race issues apply for a lot of funding and get the funds. And they do whatever they want to do with it, except to giving it to the Black people and Black community that they say they're representing, that they put on their Instagram pages, that they go around the poorest neighborhood doing all this poverty discourse, and trying to enclose us in that discourse, in that imagery. So the work that we do in Spicy Nipples is very centered in Black joy, Black liberation, fat people, disabled people. Thank you for talking about disability justice. We want to talk about abolitionists too, which is something that we're currently dealing in Puerto Rico, and the mass incarceration, especially of our black poor people. And we don't talk about black people. We don't have statistics about black people because we don't talk about blackness in Puerto Rico in the responsible way that we should. And to put this in context, to me, it is not a surprise that we are here leading this space, because we've prepared the landscape, the work, with all the work that you have done that have made us imagine ourselves being able to do this work. As Mori was saying yesterday, telling me about how do we make this sustainable? How do we make this for, that we can do this work like for a long, 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 long time? So that's the other thing about funding and granting, that $10,000 is not enough. $20,000 at times is not enough to support the work that we're doing. So we need to talk about how do we get real access to funding and to resources for Black trans community, and how do we have a Black trans fund in Puerto Rico? How do we do this? Because right now there's a fund that is directed in terms like to trans people, but the people making their decisions are not trans, are not white, are not Black, they're white and cis. So that's the power dynamics that we're currently dealing, and now I just wanted to leave those thoughts on you. Want to thank so much the members of Spicy Naples for being here, for supporting, for doing the work that we do, for dreaming ourselves beyond the crisis, for dreaming ourselves beyond violence, beyond scarcity, and being able to meet our Black trans idols and be in this panel. We're like, I feel like in the Renaissance tour, you know, but with y'all. So, because there's no money to see Beyonce, well, this is like the closest thing to that. So now I'm so happy to be here. So let's continue the work. Let's put our Black trans people to the front. Let's talk about Blackness in Puerto Rico. Don't be uncomfortable. Shut up and listen. And let's make more Black spaces directed for and by Black people without it having to be a whole debate in the social media and social network. If it's for Black people, it is for Black people. If it's Bomba, Bomba is for Black people and by Black people. So just to make that sure that you know that what we're talking about from the Puerto Rican perspective, this is the things that we're saying. So thank you so much.
I love you so much.
I think the last things that are on my mind as we're kind of closing up this and thinking about dreaming stuff. So as we talk about, you know, just is saying like, oh, $10,000 not enough, $20,000 not enough, all these things, as we talk about money being the difference between life and death for people. I want us to also dream of a time when Black trans people get to rest. Like, I want Black trans people to have sabbaticals. I want us to, like, as Bree said, I cannot tell y'all how important it is when Bree said that sometimes you got to give money without deliverables. Without deliverables, right? That so many of us are often in the struggle mode, not just from the outside world, but also for ourselves, because we sometimes can't get out of our trauma to get to that joy, right? And it's the rest time that gets us to that joy. And so what I would also especially name for y'all is to find out ways to give Black trans individuals money, right? Find out ways to give Black trans people divergent time money and stuff where we don't have to serve cis people or white people when we're just trying to build a future where we still exist, right? All of that.
And Lady Dane, before you talk, I don't ever ask Black trans people to perform labor for me for free. And so please don't do it.
You said, don't try it, Karen. Okay. Don't try it, Karen. So I'm going to perform this piece that was published in 2015 in my book called Baltimore Love Letter. That is where I'm from originally. Hey, y'all can shout out to Baltimore, hey. It's not The Wire. There was an incredible artist, advocate named Bea Richards. She has passed on. She wrote this piece called A Black Woman Speaks of White Womanhood, of White Supremacy of the KKK. It's a long title, y'all. But she performed this piece at a conference, and it is an incredible piece. You can actually YouTube it. Look up Bea Richards. She played everybody's black mama in the 80s and 90s, and she passed away in 2000. As I was reflecting on America, the United States, I thought about that piece, and I wrote this piece. I called this A Literary Daughter of That, as we think about how we honor our ancestors, move forward, dismantle colonization and white supremacy, tell the truth about who we are, about what white supremacy is, about what colonization is. I thought to close out this panel with this piece. Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of gray, for purple mountains' majesty, upon her fruity plains. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crowned thy hoods with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. From sea to shining sea. One place stolen by the making of another. Life earned by bloodied back. A woman whose queendom is the black market scheme of generations enslaved. The mind and body made way for producing livestock. The cock crows and morning comes too soon. Always too soon, but not soon enough. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Call me America. Call me poetry written in black gold blood. Call me descendant of queens and kings who knew chains on bodies. Kingdoms stolen by the hubris of those who themselves had no historical fact-based truth. And why you and I had to die in order for them to sit fat in houses. Spouses drowning. Spouses drowning. Drowned by their greed, we still plead for scraps, whether by twerking and working on broken legs or on back. Twerk, pop, hop. To the tune of the money train that displays a whole new regime of gods. And God we trust, and God we fuss, and God we cuss, looking at and worshiping gods that don't even motherfucking look like us. I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show. Call me a harlot. Call me a hoe. Call me a trans woman whose gender makes you incomplete. Call me that diva with that fierce, sick beat that you want to dance to, that entrances you, that makes you want to forget the clicks that beat in your brain and batters the tricks of slave master whip. Call me a witch enchantress, because the entrance to my womb is the secret you tried to beat out of those who came before me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. That man, white like snow, say 1% of him is greater than the sum of 100% of you. His ideology is a false god, parading his money for children fought wars, and who is mining the store. Twerk, trick, flip the switch and turn your mind on. Look at him and how he is made rich from the blood of natives. His land brought and sold, land whose currency was the lives of our sacred dead. Cut their hair and make unfair the circumstances. His land tended by black bodies in successions on seas, walk back and forth. We so powerful that even in his hate, his son still tries trying to be like we, burn cross in effigy to their hate, and debate whether we are monkeys or born from the seed of a coward in a garden made by thy rights. God, I have had enough. It's supper time. It's supper time. It's time to sit at the table. But somehow I'm unable because that man of mine, he won't be coming home anytime soon. Soon. Soon we won't be blue anymore from the beating of media. You say they tell us who to be, but my own identity is older than when tongue had sounds to make language. The grunt and groan of first knowing, the cracks are showing. They hang the noose to silence the truth, but I rant, I rave, I will not lie beneath them and have them come on my dreams and force me to give birth to their own. I am a queen. I am that thing that is so high the sky is my ground. Cut their hair, they did. They cut their hair, they did, and they said, God don't care for your queerness. They cut their bodies and said, God don't care for your humanity, and now they sit fat. In Washington, D.C., 1% against the filth of their making, we swim, attempting revolutions, scheming, screaming, believing in the people. But are we heard? Are we heard? I am a black trans woman. Call me by my motherfucking name, bitch. I list, I spit, I kiss, I fuck, I walk, I talk, I live in defiance of their definitions. Those people think we less fresh, and yet at every moment they try to steal our ideas. They try to make money off of our authenticity. They make caricatures of our royalty. They make light of those things that are heavy. And so, I sit here. We sit here. They sit here. I stand here. I live here. I fuck here. On this soil, on Mother Earth. And I give birth to children that will set ablaze their ideology. And I make art, and I make peace, and I make love, and I do battle with their love of wars and hysteria and weapons of mass destructions that leave so many bleeding their histories on time floor. Call this peace a libation on Mother Yamaya's shores. Call me a whore. Call me a pagan. Call me an affront. Call me. I am the mother of a verbal revolution, and the world will be changed by the spin of my twirl. Girl, this shit has just begun. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
Louise, okay? Wow. We are over time. The Black Trans Way. In the words of Texas Isaiah, the Femme Queen Way. Okay. Betún, Lady Dane, J. Mase, thank you for being here. And thank you for trusting me. It means a lot to me. And I love you all so much. And that is our time. Thank you.